Alrighty, cool. Hi everyone. My name is Thomas. My face is on the screen. Okay, great. So my name is Thomas and I'm an incoming senior already at Wharton studying business analytics, but I'm here representing PennACLE, which is short for Acquiring College Leadership Experience at Penn. And we are one of the wonderful pre-orientation programs, the best one, I'm just joking, at Penn. So let's talk a little bit more about what we do and what we are. So at Pinnacle, you have opportunities to basically explore your own leadership style, as well as get involved with various campus involvements and resources, and explore like the Penn fun traditions that go around on campus during the year. And you also get to develop strong connections with 60 other incoming freshmen and 12 incredible leaders. I love the leaders that were just recruited this year. You're going to be very excited to see them. And finally, but not least, we get to also learn about student government, academia, like fellowships and research, as well as Greek life, cultural, religious involvements, and business groups. And a typical day for a Pinnacle participant this year would just basically be a bus trip to the cabins, and is a little bit north of Philly. But what you do is you basically be engaged with games, activities, workshops, other leadership lessons, and exercises as a group and individually. And you basically have free time to connect with the 60 other freshmen. You also get to build community through these individual or team workshops, as well as critically think and have some self-reflective prompts. And most importantly, in my opinion, you have moments of vulnerability, authenticity, and chaos with a winky face. And some tips, tricks, and advice that I have for your incoming application is just to showcase vulnerability, growth, and reflectiveness, as well as be unique and creative, and just have fun, and make sure you highlight your strengths and weaknesses. So apply to Pinnacle, it's really fun, and meet some of your future best friends. And let me know if you have any questions.
I think that makes it my turn, right?
You're up, Tommy.
Cool. Hey, hi, hello. I'm Tommy. I'm a Penn Arts leader, rising senior, all that good stuff. Something I want to mention before I dive into Penn Arts real quick, just a logistical thing with the pre-orientation programs. Another great perk is that you get to move in early. And what this can mean is the fact that, sometimes competing for a spot in the elevator to move your stuff upstairs can be difficult and stressful. But when you move in early and suddenly you're one of like 4 people in your hall instead of all 20, you're competing less. And so that's a huge win. Just putting that out there. Anyway, Penn Arts. Penn Arts is by far the single best decision I've made during my time at Penn, both being a participant and being a leader. It is just a wonderful way to get yourself immersed in all facets of the arts community at Penn. So you really get exposed to everything. First of all the performing arts buildings on campus and different organizations on and near campus. There are master classes with local artists in all sorts of different disciplines. Penn Arts recently has sort of expanded, and so it's not just about performing arts, it's also it's artists of any kind. And I think one of my biggest pieces of advice, if you're like maybe considering applying to Penn Arts, is that there's no one definition of who an artist is. You don't need to have any level of prior skill or any background in any specific art. If you're like, this sounds like fun, and it is, Penn Arts is for you. You really get exposed to, like I said, every art under the sun that you can imagine on campus and throughout the rest of Philadelphia. One of my favorite parts is we take a walking tour of the city and look at some of the murals. Philadelphia is known for its murals. There's over 3,000 throughout the city. And obviously you don't get to see all of them, but you do get to see a selection of them. And it's a great time. The program is wonderful. I'm happy to answer any and all questions you have about it. Cannot recommend it enough. It's a great group of people every year. It's a blast. You should absolutely do Penn Arts.
Thanks so much, guys. My name is Ollie. I go by they, them pronouns. I'm an incoming senior and I'm studying urban studies. I'm also getting my master's of science and education, which is very exciting. I am a student leader for Penn Core, and Similar to the other leaders, I can honestly say that Penn Core was honestly like the best choice that I made when I came to Penn. Penn Core introduces students to the Philadelphia community through volunteer community engagement, interactive social justice workshops, and thoughtful dialogue and reflection about the social issues affecting the Philadelphia community. The program also exposes students to community engagement opportunities available to them as Penn students through the Civic House, through the Netter Center, and other civic engagement entities on campus. I know those words don't mean probably and like a lot to you right now, but they will begin to as you become more and more introduced to the Philadelphia and Penn community. Penn Core, I can honestly say, provided me with a framework that helps me to navigate Penn and all of its blessings and complications, like to this day. It's not just people talking at you either, you know, it's dialogue, it's also teaching hard skills, and it's an introduction to Philadelphia that you truly won't get anywhere else. You won't just be meeting with Penn people, like this is truly like an opportunity to meet Philadelphia institutions, Philadelphia community members, and not just like have those people come to you and just like talk at you in a lecture hall, but a lot of it is like going out into the city and talking with these people in the places that they've curated and that they've created to like have community in Philadelphia. It goes beyond Penn because, you know, when you come to Penn, your life is not just campus, it's Philadelphia as well. And as a student, it's your responsibility to learn about the place that you're going to live for the next 4 years, because it's a pretty long time. And, you know, there is so much history and beauty in the city. And it's our responsibility to like learn about it and learn how to interact with it. It is like such a beautiful community. Like these are people, when I was a freshman in Penn Core, I still keep in contact with like the leaders that mentored me. It was the first place I remember that I used like the pronouns that I am referred to by this day. It's just like honestly a very caring and loving community. And I am still participating in it today as a senior. So that can just speak to the impact that it has. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or you want to hear more about the program, please feel free to, we'll be giving out our contact information by the end of the session. So please feel free to contact me, talk to me about it.
Thanks, Ollie. So next up, we'll have two students from Penn GenEq. Take it away.
Hi guys, I'm Olivia. I'm a rising sophomore, and I will be one of the facilitators for Penn GenEq this year.
Hi there, I'm Sonia. I will also be a rising sophomore and will also be one of the facilitators for Penn GenEq this year.
Okay, so we're gonna do to start off with a quick rundown of what the days are like usually in Penn GenEq. So we start in the morning, we all have breakfast together, usually at the Women's Center. And then that's where we will usually spend the day, although sometimes we'll go to the LGBTQ Center. And then we'll have facilitators like me and Sonia come in and give presentations about, you know, centering around gender equity and social justice. But there's going to be plenty of time for journal reflection and also like small group, but also large group discussions, which speaking from personal experience are very enriching. We sometimes also have guest speakers who come from outside organizations, as well as guest speakers from within Penn, especially page constituent groups like Period at Penn, Penn Non-Cis, Spice Collective, etc. And I know all of those names probably seem really overwhelming right now, but I promise you'll get to know them all. And then some examples of topics that we cover during those presentations are gender in different settings, binaries and labels, sexuality, transformative justice, capitalism and class, as well as lots of other ones. And then we also have opportunities for hands-on gender equity work.
So this program is really unique in the way that it builds community because we're able to have these really honest, engaging conversations with other women and non-cis het men, and sort of create this safe environment where attendees can be vulnerable and talk about these issues that can be extremely personal, but also find that we actually have shared experiences despite the fact that, you know, our GenEq group comes from all across the country and all across the world. And these are truly bonds that last, that are created through these conversations. Like, and it's very true that like we have people that like I'm living with someone I met in GenEq next year, and most of the facilitators actually have these similar experiences. So this also allows you to connect to the Penn community by, you know, getting to know some upperclassmen in the different organizations on campus that are doing gender equity work and really immersing yourself in the Penn community even before student orientation starts.
I am also living with someone that I met in Penn GenEq. But in general, I would say the program is a vehicle for incoming students who are interested or impacted by gender equity to form their first true connections in college. And I can say with certainty that's where I did it. And then speaking from some of my friends' experiences who weren't in pre-orientation programs, forming initial bonds at the beginning of college, it's difficult for everybody, especially when you don't participate in a pre-orientation program because you're sort of on your own to seek out people who share a common interest with you. So Penn GenEq in particular is a great way not only to meet those with a common interest, but also to connect with them and form long-lasting and deep friendships, since we really, really get to know each other over those few days that we spent together.
Yeah, and so I would really like to drive home like how helpful this was for me, like setting me off on the right foot at Penn, because I was able to find a community that is interested in these same issues and prove that Penn, which can be a very scary place at times, like it's huge, it can be overwhelming, but the opportunities that I had because of this program, like currently I am the finance chair for the Penn Association for Gender Equity, I would not have without having participated in GenEq. So it introduced me to different physical spaces like the Women's Center and the LGBT Center, but also like student-run clubs and organizations that have like genuinely helped and benefited me in my personal life, like Penn Non-Cis and Period at Penn. And also it's just made me feel more comfortable in the area. Like we do trips to Clark Park and we eat snacks from local restaurants. So I just think it's a really beautiful introduction to the Penn community, especially if you're interested in issues of gender equity.
Okay, the last thing that we'll say is that this is certainly not like an active program. Some of the pre-orientation program leaders on this call will tell you that their programs are like active. Like I know my roommate from last year was in Penquest. That's a lot of moving around. That's not really what we do in Penn GenEq. We do like go on walks and like go to Clark Park, as Sonia said, but it's more about like sitting around and talking, and we think that's a really good time. So hopefully we'll get to see some of you guys there. Yeah. And I'm gonna put my email in the chat just in case you wanna reach out with any questions.
Yeah, like feel free. We love talking about this stuff. We love talking about just general questions about like gender equity work or LGBTQIA inclusive spaces on campus. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really chill orientation program. And with that, I think we'll toss it off to the next program.
Thanks, Sonia and Olivia. Go for it, Amanda.
Hi guys, sorry, I had to join from my phone, but my name is Amanda. I'm a rising junior at Penn, studying political science and environmental studies. And I honestly didn't even consider studying environmental studies until I joined Penn Green. That's where I kind of made a lot of my connections with the environmental community, and a lot of people in the program were super friendly, gave me such great advice. I learned about so many different programs that Penn had, like not Penn Environment, but a lot of different groups. It's also a very active program. I know some people said their programs were active and some said they weren't. We go camping one of the days in a local park. We go on hikes. We work in Penn Park Farms and do a little bit of volunteering there. But overall, it's a very active program, and I felt like I made so many good connections. And I did it online my year because I'm a rising junior, but I came back as a leader for my sophomore year, and it's one of the best decisions I ever made. So yeah, I really recommend joining.
Thanks, Amanda. Anuva, it's all yours.
All right, welcome everybody. So I'm going to talk about PennQuest. PennQuest is a 4-day outdoor adventure. So we take about 120 students and we go into the woods and we survive off the land. No, I'm kidding. We definitely don't do that. We do hike and camp outdoors for like 3 days and 2 nights. You definitely don't need camping or hiking experience going in. I had none, and I've been a leader for 2 years now. I literally loved it so much. But to just dive into some more logistics. So basically on PennQuest, the first day we all drive down to a camp, typically Camp Tawanda, where you get to socialize with all the other kids on the pre-orientation program. So we have a ton of games like capture the flag, bracelet making, soccer, etc. that you can choose from. I like to compare it to like field day in elementary school. Like that's how fun it is for me. And then the first night we all sleep in cabins, and I still remember our freshman year after curfew, like 80 of us gathered into one cabin and started just playing get to know you games like Never Have I Ever. And it was just such a cool introduction to Penn. And then the next day you all break off into groups of 10. And these groups are like complete strangers from all over the world, like very diverse groups, purposefully made so. And you'll get assigned 2 leaders, so a sophomore leader and a senior leader, and y'all go on trail. And so it's just, 2 nights, 3 days of hiking, camping, but most importantly, bonding. So we talk about, fears going into college, what our friends are like back home, what we like to do for fun, what our families are like. And, people will laugh a lot on PennQuest. People will also cry on PennQuest. We don't have phones on trail, no watches. So it truly for me was like the best way, the best environment to be vulnerable with, the people that you're on trail with. And, you'll hear this from all the pre-orientation programs, and I think it's true for all of them, but, PennQuest for me is a lifelong thing. The first day when you get to meet your group, you all will put on like this little colored wristband. And I still have mine from freshman year. And this is mine from last year, PennQuest. I like literally haven't taken it off because, the bonds that you create are just so, so special. Like just being together alone in the woods, camping, playing games. It's such a cool old school way to get to know each other. So super excited to answer any questions that you may have. And yeah.
Well, I want to thank all of our student leader presenters today. Thank you all so much for sharing about your programs. It's clear that the passion that you have really comes through. So now we're going to turn it over to you, our incoming students. It's time for a Q&A. If you have any burning questions, this is the moment. It can be anything from the application to the food to where you're staying. It's different for different programs. If you're participating in it, to activities or themes. What have you got? Feel free to drop it in the chat, raise your hand, unmute and share. Oh, there we go. Okay, they're coming in on the chat. So yes, Tommy loves questions, so he's reiterating that here. I'm sure that's true of some of our other leaders as well. Can we do more than one program? Great question, Henry. The answer is actually no. All of these programs run concurrently, and they are full days. I can tell you that for sure. So there is not an opportunity to participate in more than one program. Yeah, Henry, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I had a quick question for Tommy, actually. So yeah, I was thinking about doing the Penn Arts thing. I like music. That's the main reason I would do it.
Sure.
But I'm kind of awful at all the other kind of art stuff. So I didn't know if I would like fit in well if I was just oriented towards like music. So I didn't know if I would be cool with that, if you know what I mean.
I think you'd be totally fine. I don't consider myself good at any art, really. I really enjoy it, but I don't think I'm very good at anything. I can't play an instrument. I'm like an okay singer, I guess. I certainly don't dance. But Penn Arts was still the most fun I think I've probably ever had in my entire life. Everybody there typically has, an art that they're interested in, but also just a general appreciation for the arts. And so even if you're not like the world's most talented singer and dancer and instrumentalist and painter and so on, as long as you can at least appreciate most of those other things, it's for you, for sure.
Dope. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Tommy. And I'll just say, knowing Tommy, he's a very talented theatrical artist and technician. Anyway, so we'll take a couple questions from the chat, and then I see a hand raised, so we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit. So Anuva, I think this question might be for you. Are students provided with hiking gear for PennQuest? And the next question is also, what is a typical day like in PennQuest? So can you take both of those?
Yeah, definitely. You definitely don't need to have your own hiking gear. Like we provide you with a backpack, sleeping bag, tents, and You'll just fill out a form saying what you need out of the packing list. So don't worry about that. I had nothing going in except a positive attitude. And then what does a typical day look like? So camping day would look a little bit different when you're with like, everyone playing structured games, but then when you're on trail, so typically you'll wake up, the leaders will be cooking breakfast, and then you just start hiking. And we'll do like a full group hike. You could be split into a partner hike where you'll always have the leaders with you, but it could just be like you and someone else like bonding and hiking together. And then we'll do a lot of water breaks. Very cognizant of that. Might teach you how to purify your own water, some survival skills. And yeah, you basically just camp till night, but it's not a lot of hiking. I can't tell you how much we hike because it's a surprise. The whole point of PennQuest is like, you don't really know what you're doing. So you're just forced to be in the moment. But it's not a lot of hiking. Don't worry.
Awesome. Thanks, Anuva. So
Yeah.
we have a question in the chat for Ollie. How many first-year students are in Penn Core?
I've been answering some of these questions in the chat already, but Penn Core is a pretty big program. It's about 60 students every year, 50 to 60. But we also divide we divide the students into different home groups led by 2 different leaders to sort of like also facilitate more intimate conversations, because we are having some difficult conversations about some topics. You get really close with, we call them home groups. You get really close with them like over the 3 days. And I can honestly say, like, we laughed, we cried, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Thanks, Ollie. Yaram, is that how you say your name?
Yes, Yaram.
Do you want to go ahead with your question?
Sure, yeah. So I actually also had a question for Tommy about Penn Arts. So I'm sure a lot of other people, or I don't know how many people from Penn, but I'm sure like there are a lot of people who play string instruments. I personally play the violin, and I was wondering, like, because you mentioned master classes in Penn Arts, and I was wondering, like, specifically for people who are into really orchestral music and things like that, like string players, like, can you tell me more about those opportunities in Penn Arts?
Sure. So, and Megan, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe that there's necessarily an instrumental music masterclass on its own, because the barrier to entry for that one is a little bit higher than it is for some of the other things. But that being said, there are plenty of opportunities to play your instrument during the program. One of my favorites being, and this is the big one, I guess, is at the end of the program, there's a showcase, and the showcase is very low key. And if you're, super stage averse, that's okay. Like, it's not meant to be an intimidating thing at all. But if you're like, I love playing this instrument and I want people to see it, typically what'll happen is you'll split up into groups, you'll make friends very early on, and you'll find a group of your friends and you'll come up with some act is the wrong word, I guess, but that has a lot of different arts components to it. So maybe you're playing an instrument while someone else is dancing, something like that, and sort of, blending the arts as a whole. There are also different leader workshops that take place, and depending on what the leaders' arts of choice are, there may be one involving your instrument there. So definitely, if that is your focus, like, there is room for that in Penn Arts. That won't be the only thing you're doing, but that you will have time for that. And there are also plenty of opportunities outside of the program at Penn. I'm not the best person to talk about those, but like, your instrument, you'll find your place at Penn for sure.
Thank you.
And just to jump in, there is a music master class, and there is an opportunity in it to play instrumental music. So we'll just share that little piece. We have some secrets too. So, okay. So I'm going to keep moving through the chat, but continue to feel free to raise your hands or ask questions. And I apologize if I'm repeating anything that already got answered. So feel free to be like, we already know. So is there an advantage to applying to only one program and marking it as the only one you apply to, as opposed to applying to many? I can speak to that. I say apply to anything you're interested in and be passionate in your applications. So you're able to rank your preferences. So, and all of the program coordinators get together and review these applications together. So it's not like we won't know if you say, I only applied to one, we'll see that you applied to another one. So definitely feel free to disclose that and just be honest with yourself and what you're most interested in. And we'll kind of go from there. And then, do all programs start after August 11th? Yes, absolutely. I think the earliest ones of these University Life programs start that Saturday, August 20th. So they'll definitely all start after August 11th. And all of the programs release the decisions on Wednesday, July 6th. I believe that decision goes out at 5 p.m. Eastern time. Move-in is different for each of the programs. It's usually whatever day the program starts on is the day you will move in. So typically you would move in starting at 9 a.m. into your college house that day. And then you would be able to start participating usually in like the mid to late afternoon or evening of that program. Yes, you can absolutely apply to more than one. And today we're speaking about the university life programs. So those are the 6 programs you heard spoken of today. There's also some academic programs like the Advancing Women in Engineering program and the STEP program, which are academically based. There's also one that's run through Hillel. So lots of different options. Most of them are on the same time frame, so you're only able to participate in one because they would overlap otherwise. How hard is it to get into a program? We don't have specific data on that. We just really recommend to everyone to just, be passionate in your applications. You don't have to be like a backpacking genius or, a musical artisan. You can be someone who's just interested or wants to learn about these things, but take the application as an opportunity to kind of speak to why. Ollie, did you have your hand raised?
Yes, I just wanted to cut in very briefly. I am just noticing, I'm sensing a little bit of anxiety in some of these questions.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really want to emphasize, these are a fantastic opportunity to get to campus early, to get to know campus, to get to know some of your like fellow class members, but also like, if you don't do a pre-orientation program, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be okay. You can get involved with all of these things outside of pre-orientation programs. One of my biggest commitments on campus is I'm in a performing arts group. I never did Penn Arts. So I really want to emphasize, obviously you want to be able to like join these programs if you're interested, but if you're like, man, I just can't backpack through the woods for 3 days, but I still really want to be involved with like, outdoor activities, there's no anxiety, please. Like it's kind of it's do what you're comfortable with. And also like be assured that also like all of these leaders who are on this call right now would be, I'm sure, ecstatic to talk about any of their like involvements outside of these pre-orientation programs inside that area that you're interested in. So please talk to us about other things that we're involved in, because I'm sure we'd love to talk about them.
Ollie, thanks so much for that extremely important reminder. That goes for anything you do at Penn. Like, I know there are really exciting things and people are really pumped about them, and you might not get into everything that you want to do, but there'll be another thing. There's so many ways to get involved, and this is just one way in. So I'm going to keep moving through the chat. So the move-in date, we talked about that. So it's different for each program. If you do want to know per program, we can drop some emails in the chat. That website that I linked to earlier has the email for each program advisor. So like for Penn Arts, you could write to me and I'll let you know more specifics of what the move-in information is. And my colleagues who represent the other programs are also really great with all of that info. So feel free to reach out to each of us if you have a specific question. What's the food situation like? Yes, these are my kinds of questions. I think it's going to be different from program to program. So leaders, do you want to speak a little bit about the food situation? And each program provides food. Don't worry.
Yeah, so I think some of the best food I've ever had at Penn has been during the GenEq pre-orientation program. So we get catering for every single meal, so you will not be going hungry. We had frequent snack breaks during the days. We got food from Metropolitan Bakery and local like Korean restaurants. So it's absolutely delicious. And none of this costs you any money whatsoever for GenEq. And we're like really accommodating. Yes, like way too much food. Literally, like we had leftovers at almost every meal. Like it was delicious, and we were very accommodating if you have like dietary restrictions. So like you're vegetarian, you're vegan, you have religious restrictions on your eating. Like you'll be totally fine. It'll be more food than you can handle.
Anyone else want to speak to food?
Yeah,
Anuva, it's probably different for you, right?
I was just about to say I can jump in. We don't have all of our meals catered, unfortunately. You will not be eating as well as GenEq sounds like they do. But also like we are very, very mindful of any dietary restrictions. So, if you're kosher, if you're vegan, if you have a gluten allergy, we actually specifically have what we like to tease them as the allergy group. It's like a group of 10 students. well, my roommate freshman year was in that group, at least a group of 10 students who all had allergies, and they had like separate food that they were bringing on trails. So yeah, very, very mindful. But for PennQuest, like we'll bring bagels, pasta, hummus, generally like just pretty standard meals, I'd say. No cheese, because that gets disgusting after a couple days in the woods. So don't worry if you're lactose intolerant.
The important details. Anybody else before we move on? Okay. The pre-orientation programs, when do they start? I've got the start dates up here under important dates. So Penn Arts, Penn Green, and Penquest start on the 20th, Saturday, and Pinnacle and Penn Core starts Sunday, the 21st. I don't have the dates for Penn GenEq. Olivia and Sonia, do you know what date that starts on?
There's been a little bit of confusion about it.
Okay.
But it's like either the 19th or 20th, I believe.
Okay, so there you go. So those are the start dates. I'll leave this up for a little while in case anybody wants to copy down any, though we will be sending this presentation out, so you'll have these again. Where do we stay if we participate in Penn Core? Ollie, I think you covered that here. For all of these programs, you move into your college house, but some of them stay elsewhere throughout the program. So if you apply to 2 programs and click the I'm applying to more than one, will it diminish your chances? No, it won't diminish your chances. Yeah, Tommy, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, you mentioned everybody moving into their college house before going about their programs, and I was reminded of a small anecdote that may serve as a piece of advice for all of you. My first year at Penn, when I did Penn Arts and was one of a few people in my hall, there was someone else in my hall who had gone camping with PennQuest, but he forgot to turn his alarm off. So he had his alarm to wake him up the day that he had to leave to go camping, and then every subsequent day thereafter to wake me up. So consider this a public service announcement. If you're a part of PennQuest, turn off your alarm clock before you leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Great reminders for us all. Great question. How much these programs cost? The program fees run from $375 to $475, I believe. There is aid available. So if you receive financial aid through Penn's Student Financial Services Office, you should definitely indicate that on the application. And then you'll receive a message from the program that you get accepted into, letting you know what the aid you receive is. And if you need any support additional from there, you should contact the program advisor, because we don't want cost to be a barrier for anyone to participate in these programs. Lots of comments about my food. Or the food, my food, apparently just all became my food. Anyway, right. So again, question about the fee, definitely contact the specific program advisor and they can advise best on the fees and the fee reductions that are available. Let's see. Oh, and yes, GenEq is free. That's right. For Penn Green, what kind of research fellowship resources are explored? Amanda, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, of course. So most of the research and fellowship options I found out about were not specifically through the program, but just the leaders themselves. So I remember talking to a girl, she actually just graduated, but she told me about a Penn in Washington program that I'm participating in this year. I also have my current summer internship program through the same girl who gave me the same advice. So just like being open to talking to people, asking questions at all times, like we're all friendly. We love to answer questions. So yeah, just talking to the leaders pretty much.
Wonderful, thank you. We had a question about, will we miss any on-campus activities if we are at PennQuest? So one of the great things about these programs is they really are scheduled to start before the on-campus activities. So all of them are scheduled to end before new student orientation begins. Now, there are sometimes some crossover for international students. Sometimes there's international student programming that also happens before new student orientation. So if you're an international student and you're interested in these programs, I recommend talking both to the International Student Scholar Services team for your international student activities, as well as the pre-orientation team, just to figure out what the schedule would look like for you. If you apply to only one group, is it possible you wouldn't get in? It is possible. These are not 100% acceptance rates to these organizations, but again, we just encourage everyone to, really put some effort into your application and show why you're interested in participating. Great. Lots of answers from our wonderful leaders. Oh, very cool question. How much are poetry and literary arts explored in Penn Arts? Tommy, do you want to speak to that?
Absolutely. So I think that a big thing, and I'm not sure if this is pulling back the curtain too much, but I'm going to say it anyway. The leader workshops are very often shaped by what the applicants express interest in terms of art. So if you make a case in your, not make a case, that's the wrong phrasing. If in your application you mention that that's an art that you're interested in, we will find a way to incorporate that somehow, whether that's in the showcase and perhaps you've written a poem and the poem gets read aloud during the showcase, or it's set to a piece of music, or whether there's actually a leader workshop dedicated. I believe it was last year, there was one all about journaling. Definitely options for arts of all kinds. Like if you can make an argument that it's an art, I'm going to agree with you. And there's room for that in Penn Arts.
Thanks, Tommy. Wonderful. Let's see. Moving right along in the chat. What does a typical day at Pinnacle look like? Thomas, that sounds like it's for you.
Yes, so I saw a lot of questions and I was going to answer them all in one go. So
Go for
here's
it.
what I'm going to
Yes.
say. First of all, meals, they're all also covered as well. We will not be, basically what Pinnacle is you meet your freshman friends at Penn for like the first night, and then after the next day, we're all going to go to a cabin, like a retreat place, and we do all our activities in that one place. It's not at Penn's campus. It is a bit of it's a bus ride to another, like, it's like a field day, but not like camping in the woods and getting lost. It's just you're in this like nice like cabin with all these like swimming pool, like activities, grass, like all these like things to do. I'm not going to pull the curtain too much and not tell you exactly what we do because it is a lot of crazy stuff. But essentially what it is surrounded by is it's based on our leaders. We have 12 amazing leaders that are in all different disciplines, law, medicine, Wharton, like everywhere. And what we do is we teach you basically how to get involved in campus and what opportunities there are for you to get into. And we also engage you with a lot of Penn traditions. So it's a lot of crazy stuff that I won't say because I think that's part of the fun is not knowing. But other than that, I think there was another question on food. So vegan options are available. We always will have like a non-dietary dietary restriction and a dietary restriction like place, and basically there is going to be food provided at a cafeteria. It's pretty good food, honestly. It's like not as fancy as catering food, but it's like pretty solid food. The most important thing about Pinnacle is just you'll be bonding with the 60 freshmen and a lot of different teamwork, a lot of different engagement, so it'll be a lot of fun. And if you have any questions, feel free to type more in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas. I am just now dropping in the chat contact information. Oops, I meant to send it to everyone, but that's not what I did. So I'm going to type it in the chat again. For STEP, which I mentioned earlier, which is the Wharton program. Yes, that is another pre-orientation program. It's an academically based one. And so I'm dropping in contact information for my colleague, Taran Tadal, who is the program advisor to Wharton STEP. So if you have questions about that program, she's a wonderful resource and can absolutely answer any questions you might have. Okay, let's see. Still working my way through. And if I missed your question in the chat, I greatly apologize. And please go ahead and drop it in the chat again. 2 programs, typical Penquest day, moving right along. Move-in being 3 to 4 days before NSO. My parents were planning on helping me move in. Would they need to stay in Philly for the parent NSO events? That's really up to them and to you if they want to stay. It's not required for parents to attend the parents NSO events. They could, depending on, you know, if this works for your family, they could come and then leave and then come back. They could just come to move you in. They could come just for the NSO part. You know, all families are different. So it really depends on what works best for you and yours. Yes, the recording of this, so we will email it out. So just like you got the email about tonight's session, it's going to go to that same list. So you'll still get it from the same email. We'll send it out to all incoming students. Are vegan options available? Yes, you can feel free to share your dietary needs with the program advisors, and each program should be accommodating to anyone's dietary needs. Let's see, on campus. Oh, if you don't have your housing yet and the application requires you to just put something in so you can push it through. And if admitted to the program, there'll be follow-up to check in and what housing you're in. I would not wait to apply until you have that. I would definitely encourage you to still go ahead and apply and figure out those pieces afterwards. Should the written responses in the application be like supplemental essays or more informal? How long should they be? Leaders, do you have anything to speak to on that? We don't want people to stress out. Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, I feel like this is a question that I definitely would have asked prior to applying for Penn Arts. At least for Penn Arts, we're not so much looking for an essay as we are like tell me about yourself. Write whatever you want to write. I want your personality to come through in your application, whether if to you, you're like, I want to write a novel. I don't know if you can fit a novel into the text boxes, but if you can, go ahead. If you're like, I can convey who I am in 3 sentences, perfect. There's no right or wrong way to do it. The important thing is making sure that your passion comes through.
Yeah, I would add on to that. In our application, I think gave specific word limits. Like if you don't reach them, it's not like you're not going to be penalized for it. It's just like a guiding measure. But yeah, similarly, we just want to like know who you are, know what you're interested in. It's really low stress. Like I'm probably like 1 year older than you. Everyone on our team is like it's really not scary. We're really not, but we just want to get to know you.
Yeah, just to briefly add on, like for PennQuest, at least the number one thing we reiterate when we're looking at apps is we just want to see effort. So again, like Olivia mentioned, low stress, just put effort in your application and it'll show.
Thanks, folks. That's really helpful. So again, just continuing in the chat, right, talking about what you're passionate about, a little bit more about meals. How do the applications work? And how hard is it to get into these programs? I think we've sort of spoken to that through the last, bit of the Q&A, but yeah, the applications, that link I dropped in the chat earlier talks more about each of the programs and has a link to each program where you're able to apply. There are some, sort of questions like, yeah, what college house are you living in? And are you, a first year student and all that good stuff. And then there's some more like essay based questions for each program. Again, essay is not the right word to use. There's free response questions. So like our leaders have been saying, to learn to get more about you. It really varies from year to year, how hard they are to get into, but I just encourage you to take all the advice that our leaders have shared. Yeah, Olivia, go for it.
I just saw a question from Gracie in the chat that I felt like would be helpful if we addressed out loud. Penn GenEq is a space for gender minorities, which means that basically everyone is welcome to apply except if you are a cis man. Obviously not to be meant to be exclusionary, but it's just supposed to be a space where we all have a shared experience in some way, shape, or form. So yes, we will definitely favor applications from non-cis men. Yeah, I thought that was important to say out loud.
Thank you, Olivia. Definitely appreciate that information. We had a specific question about the vegan, vegetarian protein sources. Do you think there were sufficient options? Does anyone have any additional feedback on that?
Yeah, I could definitely speak to that. So for Penn Green, at least, and actually everything involving Penn sustainability, all of our options are always vegetarian, and then we always have vegan options as well. So I feel like since everything is vegetarian, there are like very hearty sources of protein available. I know we had Hip City Veg Catering, which I don't know I think it's kind of like, it was a Philly-based thing initially, but it has like plant-based burgers, plant-based chicken sandwiches. So there's a lot of tofu, stuff like that. I'm personally allergic to soy, so there are also soy-free protein options, which I thought was nice. Just like beans and stuff like that. So I thought there was like, I was a vegetarian and I don't eat soy also, which makes it even harder. But I personally thought there were like sufficient protein sources regardless.
Awesome. That's really helpful. Yeah, I mean, I think all the programs, the leaders and the advisors want to make sure your needs are met. So if you also have any specific needs, I definitely recommend reaching out and the team will definitely help support. We had a question about what are the other pre-orientation programs other than these? So the ones that I'm aware of are the Advancing Women in Engineering program, which is run through the engineering department, the STEP program in Wharton, which is Successful Transition and Empowerment program, and then Hillel has a program as well. So the ones we're speaking of today are all under the University Life Division. So if you have interest in those programs, feel free to, send a message in the chat about them. I can pull up a contact for you for each one. Our colleagues in those departments are also fantastic. Any pre-orientation program is really going to help folks kind of get settled in. So we definitely recommend them all. Right, more talk about food. I love it. Okay, again, the phones, no phones in nature. For international students, should we arrive on campus much earlier than the 20th? I don't believe that you need to, but again, that's up to you. If it's something you want to do, typically the programs permit movement into the college houses on the day of the program. But if you're an international student and you're concerned, definitely reach out to the program advisor to see if you might be able to get an early move in, or if you wanted to come and like stay at a hotel or something, that's also an option that's available to you. Definitely something to keep in mind. So yeah, I would say be in touch with the relevant program. If you are interested in moving in early, you do not have to, it's not required. Collecting all the phones, of course. Yes, in case of emergency. Let's see, moving down the list. So Thomas spoke a little bit about the activities that were done on the retreat on Pinnacle. But if you have any more questions, if you didn't answer them well enough, do let us know in the chat and we'll make sure to get back into that for you. Can a person be accepted to more than one program and they have to choose, or they only accepted into one? So for the University Life programs, we do the selection process together. So students are only admitted in at most one program. So that's why it's really important to rank your preferences, and that information is used during the selection process. These are great questions, folks. Please feel free to keep them coming. And if anyone has to pop off, we totally understand, and that is okay. So yes, Ollie's offering about literary arts and poetry. They are an awesome artist, so feel free to reach out to them with any questions. Okay, let's see. Oh, we're getting close to the end here. So it's so hard to scroll in the Zoom chat. I don't know if other people have that experience or if it's me being old. Okay, how much of Pinnacle is outdoors versus indoors? Do you want to talk to that a little bit, Thomas?
Yes, I actually answered that in the chat earlier, but it's like relatively 65, 35. It's not like running and camping and hiking. It's just you're outdoors doing activities that are not like really strenuous, so there's just a lot of diversity in activities. So that's why we can't answer your questions just because there's a lot. So
thanks, Thomas. Don't know if anyone asked this yet, but does it matter what time we submit the application? That's a really good question. No, it does not affect your chances when you submit the application. However, I recommend submitting it before the day it's due, because often students wait till the last. I can't tell you how many we get, like 11:59 p.m. Several applications will come in, and just to make sure it comes in before the application shuts off. What if your computer times out? What if you have internet connectivity issues? So I really recommend, aim for the 18th or the 19th, right? That way you don't have to be too concerned about hitting up against that deadline. If you do run into an issue, feel free to reach out and we'll try to troubleshoot it. It's not like you get preference if you apply early. These are not rolling admissions in that way. But I definitely recommend not waiting until the last minute, because again, there could be issues that pop up. So Henry, I see your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I had a question for Anuva about PennQuest. My question is primarily about the hiking. Like, I live in Philly, but I've never had the chance to like experience the outdoors in that way. So my question was, like, if we see like a lake or something, I don't know where we're hiking, but we see like a lake, would we go swimming perhaps? Like, is it just hiking and then camping and then just hiking? Like, is there any like games or activities? You probably already answered that, but I just wanted to like clarify for myself.
No, yeah, it's a good question. So I can't tell you where we hike, because if you ask us on trail, I'm gonna say that we're in Alabama or Antarctica. But on trail, definitely. Like, everyone's trail is going to be different. So your group of 10 is going to have like a very different trail than another group of 10, which I like. But a lot of the trails will have lakes. We'll go swimming. My freshman year, we like hopped into a random boat and like went kayaking just like around the lake, and we're like racing another group. So like tangentially, it won't just be your group on trail. Sometimes like you'll run into other groups and like interact. We also will like climb like fire towers safely, like the ones with stairs and stuff, because you'll go to like observation decks on some trails. So a lot of activities. And then of course, like the entire time we're hiking, we're taking breaks and we're playing like icebreaker games, get to know you games. One of our favorites on PennQuest is the 5 Fs. So we'll go through like family, friend, fun, fears, and future. And like do that throughout the trip. So people get more and more vulnerable as the days go by. So yeah, not just hiking, but a lot of bonding, and it's not too strenuous. So if you're worried about that too, like, don't worry. I don't hike very avidly, but I'm a
Okay.
leader for it. So
Cool. I don't know why I had this thought in my head of like 80 people like in like a line just walking
Oh,
down. I
God.
did not hear that you guys like split up. So
no, that sounds like my nightmare. No.
Yes, that would be a tough moment to manage for sure. Yes, so love Hip City Veg. Lot of Hip City Veg love in the chat, which is excellent. Some leaders sharing their contact information here for the Pinnacle app, some tips. Oh, a lot of thank yous. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Is it first come, first serve? Oh, right. No, we talked about that. So no worries on that. Do we need special clothes for any of the programs? That's a really good question. I don't know if you need special clothes, but I feel like, you know, you might wear different clothes for hiking in the woods than you would for something that's a little bit more indoors potentially, or you might not. It's up to you. I know that, you know, for Penn Arts, certain days are like days where we might be doing movement, and so that might be recommended. So leaders, would you have any specifics on clothes for the program?
I think for PennQuest, because it's outdoors, we just say like athletic wear and layers because it gets cold at night. I see a question in the chat about hiking boots. You're not provided hiking boots. We recommend them, but you also don't need them. Like I actually just had running shoes my freshman year. So yeah, don't worry about hiking gear as such.
Great.
I would say for Penn Arts, dress comfortable. I was gonna make a joke about, you know, oh, you have to wear your favorite band t-shirt, but that's not a thing. I just think it'd be fun if that was a thing. Also, the mural arts tour is outside. You are walking through Philadelphia in August. It does get hot. So, you know, keep that in mind. I know that one of the things that I've heard from people who aren't local, I'm from just outside of Philly, is that it's hotter than they expect it to be. So just sort of whatever that means to you, prepare for that, but no specific clothing.
Right. So it could be the day to day for each program. There might be some days where it makes more sense to wear something or something else. Yeah. I keep getting questions too about where this recording will be posted. We'll be emailing it out. So just like you got the invitation for tonight and to apply to these programs, you'll receive this video through that same channel. So look for it there. Okay, again, more emails coming through. Hiking boots. Yes, more emails, athletic wear. For PennQuest, is it possible to bring contacts or would it be better wear glasses? Anuva, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually wear contacts as well, and I did freshman year. We have ways for you to sanitize your hands in terms of like we'll have like little hand wash packets, but also I would bring glasses as a backup just in case. But yeah, definitely possible.
Awesome. Okay, as far as I can see, I think we answered all the questions in the chat, but it's very possible I missed some or we missed some. So if there's anything that didn't get answered, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Again, no worries at all, or raise your hand or unmute and ask us here. Now is the moment. Okay, we'll kind of give it a minute or two. But leaders, are there any other things that came into your mind as we talked through that you'd like to share before we start wrapping up? We're just at time too.
I think the big thing is that like this is all supposed to be fun. So if this is for whatever reason causing you immense stress, I know that don't isn't something that works for people who are easily stressed. But like, please know, and I think I can speak on behalf of all of us, that we are not trying to stress you out in the slightest. This is, you know, it's not the end of the world if you don't do a pre-orientation program. And if you do, I promise you'll have a great time. Be yourself in the application, and yeah, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Tommy. Thanks for those great words. So Amanda, it looks like we have a question for you. What are some examples of research opportunities one could get from Penn Green? And are the research opportunities mostly social science based, or is it broad in its subjects?
So I felt like from my personal experience, it was kind of broad. A lot of people I talked to, personally for me, I'm a double major in poli-sci and environmental studies. So I focus on more so a policy side of things, but there were also like chemical engineers doing Penn Green as well. So you had a little bit of both. For instance, I know someone told me about like the Hayden, I think it's Hayden Hall Scholars Program, which you could do like research in environmental science and geology. Meanwhile, like I interned with Penn Environment and the Penn Sustainability Office. So it's a broad range of different topics.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, folks, we are kind of nearing the end of our time. Any final questions? Well, I want to encourage you, if you'd like to unmute yourselves for a moment and give a round of applause to our leaders who presented today. So grateful to all of you. And yeah, I hear
Woo!
Woo!
That's wonderful. Yeah. And there's a lot of lovely thank yous in the chat to you as well. And thank you all for joining us tonight with your questions. They were wonderful. Please continue to reach out to us. I'll drop my email address in the chat as well, in case any of you want to contact me. I'm going to hang out here. I'm going to let our panelists go because they gave an hour of their time in their busy weeks. But I'll be here, so I'll stop the recording just in case anyone has any final questions. Thank you so much for being here.